Speaking of speaking of birds and number of days. Wait, we weren't speaking about birds and numbers of days. Look, sometimes you have to force the transition.
Yes, yeah. 3 days of the Condor.
Yeah. I admit that I had not seen this one before, and I had no idea what it was, aside from hearing people make reference to it on occasion.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it either, but I knew that it was a kind of Cold War era spy thriller. My parents have been bugging me to watch this movie for a long time because it was one of their I don't know if it was one of their favorites, but they certainly enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, and I will tell you that so there are movies that you know through pop culture osmosis, right?
Yeah.
Like you more or less, if you watch media, you have some idea of what The Godfather is about.
Yes, yeah.
This one, it's very influential, but it's like the actual beats of the storyline don't seem to be as influential, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. For those of you who probably don't know this, the Russo brothers who did some of the Marvel movies, this particular film was an influence on Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and to drive that point home even further, that's why they cast Robert Redford in that movie because he's in this movie too.
Yeah. So the basic premise of it is Robert Redford is working for this CIA outfit. I forget the exact name of it, but their objective is they basically read everything.
Yeah. They read books. They read comic books. They read short stories, all kinds of media, because they're looking for basically coded messages or plans that show up in these stories that either are familiar or are similar to actual plans or could be used as plans in other operations.
And this isn't as crazy of an idea as it kind of sounds like. I remember watching an old episode of The Daily Show where they had canceled a project called Project DVD at some point in the 2000s, where basically you had like some, I forget which agency. I'll just pretend that you had some DARPA people buy up a bunch of movies and try to figure out if they could recreate things. Like, they'd watch Iron Man and go, okay, what would we need to actually make an Iron Man suit? And see if it was practical.
Yeah.
Also, apparently, this movie was successful enough and had enough penetration that the Soviets came up with their own version of that organization.
Mm.
Or at least according to Wikipedia.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
But anyway, so Robert Redford, they characterize him very quickly. He's kind of obnoxious and a bit of a know-it-all.
Oh yeah. He shows up late to work because he rides his bike. He doesn't he doesn't like going out in the rain. He always goes out through the back door, which is completely against their policies or procedures. He kind of gets a little smart with his boss. He's just kind of an annoying little know-it-all.
Right. He basically, he's the best person in their outfit, and he knows he's the best person in their outfit. And boy, so does everybody else.
Yeah.
I just want to take a moment here to just praise something I don't usually notice, which was the set design in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Especially that opening there at the literature office. There was so much effort put into making that office a character, as they say. Just all the machines. So what's his name? Paul Chato talks about gear porn. This movie definitely goes in for that.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
like they have like this automatic translating machine that they have running all the time, turning Chinese into English. That they have there's later scenes where he's hacking 70s style computers via telephone.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Back to this thing. Like there's like a cozy side of the office. There's a bunch of clutter all over the place, and just like the smallest detail that was blink and you miss it was on the bathroom. They had, and I had to look closely to see what it was. They had like a board that had like a little arrow on a magnet, and you could twist it between a Polaroid of one of the men in the office or like or one of the women in the office.
Yeah.
And I guess I was basically marking whether it was a man or a woman in their time, or whether it was a men or a women's room at the time. I just thought to myself, that is such a tiny detail that technically adds nothing to the story, but like it gives so much character to that outfit. It makes it feel like a real office where it's like, we only got the one bathroom upstairs. We got to make sure we don't have any more incidents like after last week.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like the place, and like at one point they go downstairs, or he goes downstairs to go through this secondary exit, and it's just full of books, and there's just so much sense of history that they've managed to build into this place.
Oh yeah, yeah. I wouldn't mind working at a place like that.
Yeah, like it just feels very homey.
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, we are going to be doing some spoilers here. The non-spoiler thought is that if you haven't seen it yet, go give it a watch. I wouldn't say it's the best movie we've ever seen, but it's definitely unique and interesting in its own right.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's very much a departure from our normal spy movies that we watch, or spy movies, in general. It's not James Bond.
Right. This is Bob from accounting who keeps reasonably in shape, suddenly being shoved into an awful situation.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Yeah. And it's it's very well, as DB pointed out, it's very well shot. The sets are really great. There's a lot of great tension. The actors do a very good job of selling it, selling everything from from Redford to Faye Dunaway, Max von Sydow. I actually really liked Max von Sydow in this.
So there's our spoiler dividing line. We're now just going to talk about things openly.
Yes. Yeah.
So anyways, Robert Redford's character, just referred to as Turner, goes to grab lunch for everyone with the very exacting list of orders.
Yes.
And then their office is attacked and everyone is horribly gunned down without mercy, one by one.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're led by Max von Sydow, who has a very very cold demeanor to the whole thing.
Yeah, they made the interesting choice to make him from Alsace, which means that is he German? Is he French? It depends entirely on who won the last war.
Yeah.
Definitely with a German accent, though.
Yeah, yeah. And so when Redford shows up and sees what's happened, he immediately has to go into flight mode and go into hiding, and of course he doesn't know who to trust. He doesn't know who's who, because he calls into the CIA crisis center. And he's just like, well, what am I supposed to do? He's like, I'm not a field operative. I just read books. It's like,
yeah. And although they do make a point that he kind of sees a lot of their tricks coming just because he is so well read.
Yeah. He points out at various points. He's like, well, how do you know all this stuff? He's like, because I read.
Yep. And then at one point in the course of his escape, he kidnaps Faye Dunaway, who plays Kathy. And that's that is a relationship that I don't think that's not so much that you couldn't portray it these days. It's just that you couldn't portray it in exactly the way they did here.
Yeah, it escalates quickly.
Yeah, like it almost feels a bit forceful.
Yeah.
Although, then again, there are those women out there who, would love to find out that Edward had been staring at them through the window for weeks on end. So,
Yeah. It definitely gets their motor going.
yeah. I'm going to share some cursed knowledge. At the
um,
height of the fame of Twilight, they actually made massage wands that were designed to be put in the freezer to simulate the vampires of that series. I was burdened with this knowledge, and now so are all of you.
oh, God. Oh, I've lost all faith in mankind.
Anyway, well, this was a good movie for you to watch because so did this movie. It's definitely that peak 70s cynicism.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this was what year was this? 75? Yeah,
Yeah.
1975. So this was not long after Watergate.
Yeah,
Um,
like you would think that Watergate had shaped this movie when my understanding was that the movie only came out a couple of months afterwards.
yeah, yeah.
Another amusing little factoid about this movie is that it's based on a novel called 6 Days of the Condor. I guess I decided to chop it down to 3 days because movie timing.
Yeah, yeah. I found that rather amusing too when I saw that in the opening credits. I'm like, wonder why they cut it in half. It's just save time, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so the movie is like a cat and mouse between Robert Redford and the various operatives who are after him. And for most of the movie, you really don't know who they are because it's like, okay, well, are these like is this some sort of Soviet or East German plot? Because they do have that German guy there.
Yes, yeah.
I should say I don't know that he ever actually speculated that they were so foreign agents, but that was on my radar as a possibility.
Yeah, because well, the at the beginning of the movie, I mean, they were talking about this book that he was analyzing,
Mm-hmm.
and which ends up being the whole reason for what's happening in the movie. And I think he said something like it was being translated into like Arabic and Spanish and Dutch, and it's just like, but it wasn't in Russian, it wasn't in German, it wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't the usual suspects, basically.
Yeah, so like it definitely keeps you guessing. I It does eventually tie together. We'll get into a second layer of spoilers in a minute. It does eventually tie together. I don't think that we as the audience could have divined what was going on. So it is a bit of a mystery box plot.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I definitely got that feeling. Yeah, because because the entire time you're sitting there trying to figure out like, well, who are these people? Who's after him? Why are they after him? Are the people and then the people in the CIA that he's talking to, are they in on it? Are they?
Right. Well, we're guessing right along with Redford, which is kind of the point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, as far as the feel of it, like Daniel said, this is very well shot. It also has a very nice soundtrack, and like I think I forget if I mentioned this before the show when I was talking with Daniel. I'd had the idea in my head that this was some sort of 80s or 90s style Clancy or Tom Clancy story.
Yeah.
Because I'd never heard any firm details on it, but like there's no mistaking the era this comes from. The second you start the movie and you hear the soundtrack start up, like it is so 70s, man.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. It is a product of its time. Yeah.
Yeah, down to the fashion, the product placement, the music,
Yeah.
just everything. Also, just like in The Sting, Robert Redford proves that he has nice running endurance.
Yeah. And that's another thing I noticed. Yeah, he's basically proving that he was Tom Cruise before Tom Cruise.
Yep. Um, so so as far as the movie's ending, it's one of those things where if you like were a real foreign policy nut, you could figure it out, and it
Mhm.
made some sense afterwards. But again, like I think that it was designed to be opaque to the audience. Um,
Yeah.
it's actually it's a little bit Doctor Strangelove now that I think about it, because it's basically well, we had we're always making up these plans for like what if we had this scenario and that scenario and that scenario. And basically, it was a CIA operation to invade and take out chunks of the Middle East, uh, the Netherlands, and Venezuela, which is why it was translated into Arabic, Spanish, and Dutch.
Yeah.
And the reason is all three of those areas produce oil.
Yep. Yeah, it's all about the oil, man.
It actually reminded me quite a bit of the last Mission Impossible movie where you had that long speech by the guy uh, talking about, we're dealing with a dwindling environment. We're fighting for our chunk of that. Da, 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 da.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 Very similar. And
Uh, where this guy's going like, in 10 years, everyone's going to be hungry. It's like, man, those were the predictions at the time,
yeah, they were. Yeah. Well, yeah, and they thought there was going to be another ice age.
right? They thought there was going to be another ice age,
Yeah.
famines where a third of Americans died.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Did you read the Population Bomb when you were in school?
No, but I'm know of the idea. Boy, did
Yeah.
that turn out to be largely incorrect.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah. Yeah, I read it in high school, and my dad read it in high school too, and he went to his dad, my grandfather, like, oh, we gotta be really worried. My grandfather was like, I was hearing that when I was your age.
Yeah.
So
It turns out that most doom and gloom predictions don't turn out to be correct,
mhm.
but they sure sell. Speaking
Yes,
of doom and gloom that sells, let's get back to the movie.
yeah,
Uh,
yes, indeed, yeah,
I took us on a bit of a tangent there,
that's
but
okay.
yeah. So basically, they have all these war games, and some crazy nut job in the CIA and a group of his buddies decided to actually carry one of them out.
Yes, and the Redford's office, all of his coworkers and friends were basically collateral damage.
Right, because basically they had stumbled upon something that hinted at the mission, and like it was actually Redford's fault in a way because he was noticing the weirdness of it only the message only being translated into those specific languages.
Yeah, and yeah, and the section chief, basically his boss's boss, was in on the whole thing. So he'd write back and say, "I don't see anything here."
Yep. So now, if I think about this plan on like a larger scale, one of the problems with it is that maybe I'm crazy, but do you think they could really get away with invading a member of NATO in the form of the Netherlands?
I don't think so. No, that would have been a huge scandal and a huge war crime.
Yeah, and boy, that would have been the end of NATO right there.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah,
and also, and what's funny is that the person who was explaining the plot at the end of the movie to Redford, and
yeah,
another chief, said, and the plan could have worked. Like, if I think about U.S. military assets in 1975,
yeah.
um, they could have probably taken Venezuela, though good luck holding it.
Yeah.
Middle East, that's a big, vague area. Like maybe, and well, as
Uh,
I guess they didn't quite have that experience to know how hard it is to actually hold and shape the Middle East. But
no, they hadn't. They didn't know that. Yeah, because this was what 5 years, 4 or 5 years before the Soviets invaded Afghanistan.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I think this is even before the Iranian Revolution.
yeah, Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was. Yeah. Iranian Revolution was. Yeah, that was 78 or 79.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if I stop thinking about it from a real life perspective, uh, it actually is kind of believable that the CIA head guy there would be overly optimistic about their chances of pulling it off. Now that I think about it,
Yeah. Yeah. Although I like this was, at the tail end of the Vietnam War.
yeah, yeah,
That didn't go very well.
yeah. I guess it is realistic to have the CIA want to bite off more than it can chew.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what I would say is that like the movie starts off as an action movie, but it ends as a thriller. But because it's like the initial action scene, from an action set piece perspective, uh, it kind of blows its wad early.
Yeah, it does.
Um, and so just set your expectations. It's going to turn into tense cat and mouse and one-on-one small scale fights after a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is kind of what espionage is like in reality.
Right.
It's
Right. James Bond is the worst spy in the world when you really get down to it.
Oh yeah, he's terrible. Yeah, he's a bit like Axel Foley.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, now, as far as the quality of the movie itself, like I said, I think we've seen better, but this movie definitely has a unique sense of style.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Yeah, and there's something to be said about kind of this era of spy thrillers because it was and not quite kind of the height of the Cold War, and when tensions were really high, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just that cat and mouse kind of
Yeah, and
thing
it
is
isn't
really
it isn't
fun.
fantastical like James Bond is. This is like a very it's almost like it's almost like the Bourne Identity before the Bourne Identity.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We lost a great villain when the Cold War ended.
Well, there was another one there the whole time, but we wanted to pretend that they were our friends. So
No, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, this movie is on Paramount Plus. For those of you who are interested in watching it, although both of us give it a solid recommendation.
yep.
Well, yeah, I think we've said all we need to say for tonight.
Indeed.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it.